There is an island in Mediterranean, rugged, ancient, fiercely proud, Corsica, and from its rocky soil in the year 1769 was born a child who would shake the foundations of the world. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte. His father Carlo was a minor nobleman. His mother Letizia, iron-willed, unbreakable, would shape him more than any battlefield ever could. Corsica had just been sold to France. The boy grew up as neither truly French nor fully Corsican, an outsider in his own homeland. It was a wound that never fully healed and a fire that never went out. At 9 years old, Napoleon was sent to France for military school. He arrived speaking French with a Corsican accent. The other boys mocked him. He responded not with tears, but with obsession. At Brienne Military Academy, while others played, Napoleon Reed, Caesar, Alexander, Hannibal, he devoured their campaigns the way hungry men devour bread. He was not learning history. He was planning his own. He completed his officer exams in 1 year instead of the usual 2 or 3. He was 16. He was commissioned as a sub-lieutenant in the French artillery. His uniform did not fit. His ambition fit perfectly. Then his father died. Napoleon, still a teenager, became the family's rock. He sent money home. He studied harder. He watched France begin to tear itself apart in revolution, and he took careful notes. Revolution devoured its own children. Kings fell. The old world burned. And in the chaos, a young Corsican officer was watching, not with fear, but with the eyes of a man who sees opportunity where others see only ruin. The Siege of Toulon, 1793. The British hold the port. The French command is paralyzed. Then a 24-year-old artillery officer steps forward with a plan so bold, so precise, that the generals can barely believe it. Napoleon placed his guns on the heights overlooking the harbor. The British fleet, exposed, had no choice but to flee. Toulon fell, and overnight, no one was laughing at the small Corsican anymore. He was made brigadier general at 24. Then came the chaos of post-revolutionary Paris. A royalist mob marched on the government. Napoleon was handed command of the defense. He did not hesitate. He used cannon. In the same chaotic year, he met Josephine de Beauharnais, a widow, elegant, elusive. He fell instantly and completely. His letters to her were volcanic. She received them with charming indifference. They married in 1796. 2 days later, Napoleon left to command the army of Italy, a ragged, starving force of men who looked at their tiny new general and saw nothing remarkable. He gave them a speech. Then he gave them victory. Montagnat, Lodi, Arcole. After battle, Napoleon outmaneuvered larger Austrian armies, striking where they least expected, faster than anyone thought possible. His soldiers called him Le Petit Caporal, the Little Corporal. It was a term of love. The Egyptian campaign followed, part military adventure, part scientific expedition. He brought scholars alongside soldiers. But Nelson destroyed the French fleet at Aboukir Bay, and Napoleon's army was stranded. He did what few commanders would dare. He abandoned them and sailed home alone. He arrived in Paris to cheering crowds, the Egyptian disaster conveniently forgotten. France was exhausted by revolution. It needed a strong man. Napoleon was ready to be exactly that. The coup of 18 Brumaire. Napoleon seized power as first consul. The revolution was over. The Republic still had its name, but it had found its Caesar. As first consul, he moved with astonishing speed. He crossed the Alps into Italy and won the Battle of Marengo, barely, and only because a general named Desaix arrived at the last moment and died saving the day. He rebuilt France from the inside out. The Napoleonic Code, a legal framework still echoing in the laws of 50 nations today. Reconciliation with the Catholic Church. New roads, new schools, new institutions. Napoleon was not just a conqueror. He was an architect. But power was never enough. He became consul for life. Then he went further. On the 2nd of December, 1804, in the Cathedral of Notre Dame, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the French. He took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. He then knelt and crowned Josephine Empress. In that moment, the pageantry, the gold, the incense, the watching world, something extraordinary was visible. A man who had risen from nothing had placed himself above kings, and meant every second of it. He reviewed his Grande Armée at Boulogne, 600,000 men, the finest military machine the world had ever seen. The British press drew cartoons of a small, angry man. They would soon stop laughing. Austerlitz, December 2nd, 1805, exactly 1 year after his coronation. Napoleon faced the combined armies of Russia and Austria. He was outnumbered. He was surrounded. He was exactly where he wanted to be. He deliberately weakened his right flank, inviting the Allied attack. When they took the bait, he struck the Pratzen Heights at the center, splitting their army in two. The Allies broke. Some fled across a frozen lake. He ordered his cannon to fire on the ice. Austerlitz is considered Napoleon's masterpiece. In a single morning, he had broken two empires. Emperor Francis of Austria wept. Tsar Alexander fled. It was the son of Austerlitz, and Napoleon would speak of it for the rest of his life. He placed his brothers on the thrones of Europe. He met Tsar Alexander on a raft in the middle of a river and divided the continent between them. He crushed Prussia at Jena and entered Berlin through the Brandenburg Gate. He stood alone in Frederick the Great's tomb at Potsdam, hand on the sarcophagus, communing with his hero. He spread the Napoleonic Code across conquered Europe, abolishing feudalism, establishing equality before the law. His legal revolution outlasted his military one. At his peak, Napoleon controlled more of Europe than anyone since Charlemagne. His marshals, nay, devout Morat Soult, were the greatest collection of military talent ever assembled under one command. The empire breathed as one organism, with one will at its center. But perfection is fragile. Spain was bleeding him. Britain was uncrushed. And in the east, Russia waited, vast, cold, patient. The cracks in the empire were invisible from the outside. But they were there. To understand Napoleon fully, we must look at the shadows behind the light. In 1802, he restored slavery in the French colonies, reversing the revolutionary decree that had abolished it. In Haiti, hundreds of thousands of people were re-enslaved. The man who spread liberty in Europe denied it to others. Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian revolutionary who had defeated Napoleon's forces, was arrested under a flag of truce and imprisoned in a French mountain fortress where he died. The Haitian people then defeated France anyway. Napoleon sold Louisiana to America in frustration. His press was censored. His secret police, run by the cunning Fouch, watched everyone. Political opponents vanished into prisons. The revolutionary cry of liberté had grown quieter and quieter inside France. The Peninsular War in Spain became Napoleon's Spanish ulcer, a wound that would never close. Spanish guerrillas fought not for empire, but for their homeland. Goya painted what he saw. It was not heroic. It was horror. Then came the most personal darkness. Josephine had given him no heir. Napoleon divorced her in 1809, one of the most painful acts of his life. He wrote to her that he had found her weeping and had himself wept. He married Marie-Louise of Austria, a political alliance, and in 1811 she gave him a son. The King of Rome, Napoleon, wept again, but differently. He had his heir. The dynasty was secured, but at what cost to his humanity? Beethoven had once dedicated his Eroica Symphony to Napoleon, the hero of the new age. When Napoleon crowned himself emperor, Beethoven scratched the dedication out so violently he tore the page. Even those who loved the ideal could not forgive the man. In June 1812, Napoleon led the largest army ever assembled in European history across the Niemen River into Russia. 600,000 men. He expected a decisive battle within weeks. Russia had other plans. General Kutuzov retreated. He burned villages. He destroyed crops. He gave Napoleon nothing to fight. The French marched deeper and deeper into a burning emptiness, the supply lines stretching thin as thread, the summer heat murderous. At Borodino, 70,000 men died in a single day. Napoleon won the field, but failed to destroy the Russian army. He would not commit his imperial guard. It was the one moment of hesitation in a career defined by boldness, and it may have cost him everything. He entered Moscow in September, expecting the Tsar's surrender. Instead, he found the city on fire. The Russians had burned their own capital rather than hand it to him. Napoleon sat in the Kremlin and watched his prize turn to ash. He waited 5 weeks for a message from Alexander that never came. In October, with winter closing in, he ordered the retreat. What followed was not a military withdrawal. It was a catastrophe. The temperature dropped to -30. Soldiers in summer uniforms froze where they stood. Horses died by the thousands. Men ate the horses. The Grande Armée, the finest military force in the world, was being destroyed not by bullets, but by cold. Of 600,000 who crossed into Russia, fewer than 100,000 came home. Napoleon abandoned his army again and raced back to Paris. The invincible emperor had met something he could not conquer: the Russian winter and Russian endurance. The wolves smelled blood. Prussia, Austria, Russia, Britain, and Sweden formed the Sixth Coalition. At Leipzig in 1813, the Battle of Nations minus 600,000 men clashed for 3 days. Napoleon fought brilliantly, but numbers have their own logic. The bridge at Leipzig was blown up early, cutting off thousands of French soldiers on the wrong side. Napoleon escaped. His empire did not. The Allied armies poured into France. His marshals, one by one, refused to go on. Ney, the bravest of the brave, told him the army would march no further. Napoleon signed his abdication at Fontainebleau on April 6, 1814. That night, he swallowed poison he had carried for years against such a moment. It did not kill him. He survived to face a harder death, the death of irrelevance. He said farewell to the old guard at Fontainebleau, veterans who wept openly, men who had followed him across Europe. He kissed the battle eagle standard. He was exiled to Elba, a tiny island in the Mediterranean. He governed it as if it were an empire. But Napoleon could not be contained by an island. In February 1815, with 1,000 men and a few ships, he escaped. He landed in the south of France. When troops sent to arrest him arrived, he stepped out alone, opened his coat to the muskets and said, "If any of you wishes to shoot his emperor, here I am." No one fired. They joined him. Marshal Ney, who had promised the king to bring Napoleon back in an iron cage, galloped to meet him with his entire army. On the 20th of March, Napoleon entered Paris without firing a single shot. The 100 Days had begun. Waterloo, June 18, 1815, Napoleon faced Wellington on a ridge in Belgium. The battle was close, far closer than history sometimes remembers. Napoleon's cavalry crashed against British squares again and again. The squares held. Then the Prussians arrived on Napoleon's flank. He committed the Imperial Guard, his last reserve, the undefeated veterans of a decade of victories. They were repulsed. The cry spread through the French army, "La Garde recule," the Guard retreats. It was the signal for total collapse. Napoleon abdicated for the second time. He surrendered to a British warship, the HMS Bellerophon. He stood on the deck as English civilians rowed out in small boats just to see him. The legend they had feared for 20 years was simply standing there, aging and still. His final exile was St. Helena, a volcanic rock in the South Atlantic, 2,000 miles from the nearest continent. His residence, Longwood House, was damp and decaying. He had once commanded palaces across Europe. Now he commanded only his memories. On St. Helena, Napoleon did something as important as any battle. He dictated his memoirs. He constructed the legend, the revolutionary who brought order, the warrior who brought law, the emperor who freed Europe even as he conquered it. He grew thin. His health failed. He was 51 when he died on May 5, 1821. Among his last words was the name Josephine. The man who had crowned himself above kings died on a distant island, his last breath carrying the name of the woman he had loved first and longest. The news reached Europe and caused relief mixed with a strange grief. Stendhal and Heine mourned. Hegel had called him the world spirit on horseback. A generation had grown up in his shadow and could not imagine the world without him. They would spend their lives trying. In 1840, his ashes were returned to Paris in a state funeral of extraordinary grandeur. Hundreds of thousands lined the streets. Victor Hugo watched from a window and wept. The body of Napoleon was placed under the Golden Dome of Les Invalides, where it rests today. The Napoleonic Code today forms the basis of law in France, Belgium, Quebec, Louisiana, Egypt, Bolivia, and dozens of other nations. The legal world Napoleon built outlived everything else he created. His empire, his dynasty, his reputation. Military academies worldwide still study his campaigns. His corps system, his use of artillery, his doctrine of speed and concentration. These shaped every major army that followed. His enemies learned from him. So did their enemies. His invasion of Spain accidentally ignited the independence movements of Latin America. The disruption of the old European order created the conditions for Italian and German unification decades later. Napoleon intended to conquer history. He ended up rewriting it. The debate will never end. Was he the liberator who spread the principles of 1789 across a feudal continent? Or the tyrant who sacrificed millions to feed his own ambition? The answer, uncomfortable, unresolvable, is both. He was both. That is what makes him impossible to forget. A boy from a rocky island who learned to read military strategy in a cold dormitory. A general who kissed an eagle standard on the day he lost everything. A dying man on a distant island who whispered a woman's name. Napoleon was not a myth. He was a man, and that is what makes him extraordinary. His bicorn hat sits in a museum case in Paris.
Tourists stop and stare at a small, worn piece of felt, the hat of a man who once wore the world. And for a moment, standing before it, even across 2 centuries, you can feel it. The force of a single human will, refusing to accept the limits of what was possible.